Hello there. I want to talk to you about, how do you know if you're helping properly, helping other people properly, if you're providing good help, and if you're being, useful when you're helping others, or if you're useful when you're helping yourself, or how do you know if your advice or your help is good, versus if it's actually harmful to another person, or whatnot. And there's three key aspects to this. I'll talk about what they are, and it's to kind of know, understand, if whether your help is actually you know has a good basis, because much of you don't have experience helping other people properly, or your advice is bad, or you don't have the right experience, or you're pretty much confused about your help, and if you did the right thing or not in your life. And this is the perspective that I'm going to be offering you. It's obviously it's my perspective, and this I don't pressure you to take it on. And that's actually one of the things that you will see the way I offer help to you, is that I never force you to take my advice, or never force you um, you know, to believe what I'm saying is true, because that's not exactly that's actually the deviates from the path that I'm recommending you to take on and see. And there's three aspects to this way of looking at it. And the first aspect of it is that to check to see if you're actually providing something of value to somebody, is to know, if when you're helping or when you're doing certain action, are you adding the number of choices a person has in their, do you add more choices to their do you add more perceived choices to their life? So when you're helping someone, you need to always ask yourself that, do you provide more perceived choices for themselves, or them to whoever who you help? And this is how essentially I guide my help, versus I know if my help is no longer useful, or if my help is too much or whatever. This is the question I continually ask myself before I help somebody, is if I were to give something to them, am I adding value? So for example, say that when somebody coming to me and telling me about their problems, sometimes, at that point, maybe it's not my job to tell them, oh, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. At that point, my job is maybe the best way I can, best choice that I can add to that person's life, is just be a listening ear, and ask them what they want to say, and let them kind of vent out, because that's adding value, right? That's adding a choice, like they didn't have that choice before, before you started to do that for them. So just being able to listen and contemplate what they're saying, it's some of the time it's the best way you can add value to somebody. And some of the time, people figure out on their own what they want to do. So I think that's a fundamental good skill to overall to develop. But that's it could be as simple as that. And if they you can ask them, you can look, there's another way I can offer to you, in my perspective, that can add more value to your situation. Ask them, so now again they have another choice. So you see, you continually adding more choices into people's life when you're going about this approach. So at that point, you can go ahead, what, in this situation I would do this and these other step, and this is the reason why I think your way of doing will not be the most beneficial for you, and will not bring the greatest good for everybody. And the other aspect of it is that, which we kind of mentioned it just in the last sentence, is that, do you bring the greatest good for all? Is whatever the help you're doing, do you need to understand, is your job, is whatever you're giving out to the other people or the other person, are you bringing the greatest good for all? Because why do something if it's not the greatest good for all? And if it's if it's just for your benefit, well, I mean, you can continue to do that, but for how long? There's there's so many other people who can find your help very useful to better themselves a little bit from their pain and suffering. I'm pretty sure you had many days that you wish you there was somebody to help you, right? So why don't you extend that feeling or emotion and give that somebody to else? You might not feel like there wasn't anybody to help you. You slog this thing out on your own, but you know in your deep down that you cannot even slog anything that you had to slog through without helping and other people creating that environment that you needed to thrive and play that game that you're playing. Especially how these CEOs think that they kind of go through and went through all the pain and suffering on their own to get to what they are. Well, if they didn't have anybody in front of them, above them, and if they didn't have anybody below them, how would they go to the place they are? How would they, if especially if they have parents or such that have helped them, how would they be there where they are? They even needed a mom and a dad to give them birth, right? So certain things like that. I mean, you don't even need to go that extended or that far, but understand that some of the things that you know how to do will help a lot of other people to come out of their own misery and suffering, and to help them maximize their life. So that's what I always say. So find whatever you're giving out, is it bringing the greatest good? And then to check to see if it's greatest good, check to see if whatever the actions you're putting out, if it's bringing the most value to another person. Is it, how do you know that? Well, does it increase the number of perceived choices that other person has? And how do you know you're doing harm to another person? Well, are you lowering the number of perceived choices somebody has? For example, shooting, killing somebody or shooting someone or injuring them. Obviously now, you have restricted their ability to go do things in their life as they should. And now you also stole their innocence. Now they're a lot more afraid of the world. They think that it's a cruel place. Now they're separated into a limited corner and a belief that they cannot do things, and they're a lot more scared. Or do you want to be that? So really wonder, is your actions, are they the way you're forcing certain things that you want to accomplish? Are you forcing them into restricted set of actions that they cannot see anything beyond? And another things that I've seen in this, the commercial world, is that we continually press upon people's fears, forcing them to buy into things, or ask them to get things they might not need. So this is, especially important if you're working in business, that whether you are putting something that is putting out there for them, are you adding the number of choices you have? And you have to make sure is that while you're conducting your business, while you're telling them, you have this weakness, blah blah blah, or you have this, you have this fear. Make sure that when you, or not only you identify them, give them number of choices that they can improve on their life. And I know the next thing you're gonna ask, like, if you have a lot of choices, then you might be confused, right? Well, would you rather have limited number of choices that are bad for you, or a lot of choices that you can pick and choose that includes positive things for them as well? And this is one of the main things that I had a conversation with somebody. Some people don't want a lot of choices in their life. Completely understandable. Some people want more choices in their life. But what I'm saying is that more choices you have, the more perceived choices you have, more you can play and take on an action that is more beneficial for you overall, rather than lowering the number of choices people have. Because if you go in the journey of lowering people's choices, ask yourself, are you okay with being your lower choices lowered by some other source, some entity, another person, and whatnot? I definitely wouldn't like that. I like to have full freedom of my all my moments, and all my of my future, of my present, and of my, well, of my present, and my future, right? So figure out if you want to be an agent of offering more choices and empowerment, so that they can take a better choice for them, and tell them the guiding, how you see the world, and offer that perspective that they can take on and maybe improve their lives. Or do you want to be an agent of lowering somebody's choices and restricting them what they can do and see? So, simple where you can see, how books obviously increases somebody's choices. So it gives you new perspective, new understandings that people can take on and explore and engage and improve themselves and be happy with. So this is something that I want you to take a look and think about. And the other aspect of it is you are only responsible for the effort of your help or of your advice or whatever that you're doing for people, and you're not responsible for the outcome of that action, or especially when you're helping somebody. And for example, what I can tell you is that, say that there's somebody who want to know, how to do well in school. What I would do in this scenario would be to give, I would first listen to them, what's going on in their life, what's, kind of get to know, kind of like an audit, right? So kind of understand what they want, and where they essentially pain points, where they start struggling in their life, and get to know them, about them, and let them kind of vent out, let them comfortable with you, build a little bit of rapport with them, and understand what they're trying to say, and try to really understand what their perspective is, instead of you jumping and trying to give them advice right away. Try to understand what their perspective is, and make sure that you can repeat what their perspective is, and get get that validation back, right? I think that would be more useful for a lot of people, because some people are very smart, they know how to solve the answers, they just want somebody to listen to what they have to say. So that's what I do first, and then after that, then offer them, look, I see where you're going, what you're going through. It seems like you're a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of work you have to do, and then, I had a recently that I met a girl who was struggling a lot with their school, right, with her maths program, and she was feeling a little bit overwhelmed. So first thing I did, instead of giving her advice, is just let her talk to me and see what she has to say. And then after that, and I told her, look, there's a perspective that I can give you. There's certain techniques that I can offer you that you might find useful. And I asked her that, and it was like, you know what, sure, go ahead. I can't wait to listen to them. And then I started to talk about, look, the only thing you can do at this point is that, find whatever the things that you're comfortable doing. If your body say, you know what, I don't want to deal with this right now, I want to just get away from everything. Well, maybe that's what you need for a bit, right? I know there's other circumstances that might be prevent you from doing that, but you need to understand, you're doing this master's program to benefit you, not to benefit the master's program or the person who came up with the degree and whatnot. You're taking your master's program is a tool that you're going to be using for your future to advance of what you do. Don't let that master's program or whatever you have take on to guide your life around, to guide your emotions around, because this experience is temporary. And if you cannot stay within yourself and understand what you need to do, how can you go and do better and bigger things later on? So what I'm saying is that, if it's something is too much for you, take a little break and only deal with, if you need some time to watch a movie, eat some good food, do that. I never say you shouldn't do those things. I say take that little break, and then only go into doing things when with whatever you're comfortable. Don't think about the whole thing, that if it's too much, go to the things that you are comfortable to do, and then you can put your max effort. And I always talk about this. You need to learn how to execute your maximum effort. So go into the things that you can max. If you can only put max effort to watch a movie, put max effort to that. If you can only do max effort to play a game, put max effort into that. But if you're going to help another person, put max effort to that. But key thing is to understand is that you're not responsible for outcome, you're responsible for the effort when you're trying to go help somebody, right? This is one of the main things that people get wrong, I feel, is that when we try to get a specific outcome from this, from people, we actually restricting the number of choices people have in their life. This is very important, because when we're giving advice to somebody, we want them to take it and run with it as soon as possible. And sometimes when they don't take our advice, we feel super upset. It's like, you know what, I'm giving you such valuable advice, but how come you're not taking it? Well, what if that they cannot execute the advice you're giving? What if they are mentally too distraught or traumatized by some event or occurring that you're not aware of, that they cannot take that action? So in fact, instead of you adding value to them, rather than you adding value to them, now you have restricted their number of perceived options or choices in their life. So you can see how easily when we want other people to take our advice or help right away, we sometimes reduce the number of perceived choices people have in their life. Now we put them in a more difficult situation than they were initially in, because we are egotistical. Our personality or egoistic personality want our advice to be dominating factor in their life. And how you can see how this could be problematic to you when you feel like now a victim, and now the other person also feel like a victim because they can't take the advice you're giving. And also you feel like, I've spent so much time and effort giving you this advice, how come you're not accepting it? And this always causes problem for both parties and cause unnecessarily difficult relationship with one another. So that's my perspective. That's what I say, when you're giving advice, or see if you're introducing more perceived choices in their life. And understand it's perceived choices. This is all perception based, right? So you need to understand, you cannot give actual more choices. They have to see it as a next or new perceived choice. Even if you see it that way, they might not. So what's the point? Another example I can tell you about is that if I'm talking with somebody, say Mike, when I'm talking to him, I'm talking to the Mike that I have created in my head, that we using the data I have known about him in my past and the conversations I had with him. I have created this version called Mike in my head, and I'm speaking to that Mike. Where even if he's in front of me, I'm directly using the data that I know about him to communicate. But what's going actually within Mike I'm not able to see that. That's the reality of it. It's hidden away. Like, even when you're talking to me, you're talking to the Dulik that you have created in your head with watching these videos or the experiences we had with one another. So um um yeah, so understand that everybody's even understanding of the things, that's me just talking about people. All same thing with events. Your perception of events is hugely biased by your understanding of your prior education and prior learning and prior experiences. It is very likely it's not the case how it playing out. It has probably have a very emotional component to it, for preventing you from seeing the full picture. So that's what I recommend, is when you're helping another person, rather than forcing your help to them, try to find a way you can add more perceived choices in their life. And be an agent that you can add more value in terms of number of choices. This includes yourself, rather than thinking that you are useless and helpless and you're not loved, or you cannot do anything, and you feel like you're depressed and overwhelmed and exhausted. Maybe the next choices is that, how do I make how do I make myself a little bit happier now? And what do I have to do? What do I need to do for that? And that's now you're accepting, willing to accept a new choice and a new perspective that might be able to allow you to be a little bit happier than you were before. You need to understand, because how we were being doing things, your mind will always look to see if you can be put into a helpless situation. This is not because your mind's bad or whatever, because you have not guided your mind as a true teacher. You have used and abused your mind to accomplish things that are external, and now your mind is kind of reacting back when it goes through difficulties. So, even when you're helping, some of the things that you do, even when you're helping yourself, don't worry about the outcome that, whether doing this will have a positive benefit or not. Rather, focus on the effort, maximizing the effort. I continue to talk about this. If you cannot maximize the effort, well, do something else for now that you can maximize the effort. If you don't want to maximize the effort, chill out. Maximize effort in just relaxing and chilling out a little bit, and just truly relax it for a bit and then go back in it hard. This is why I always tell you to, take on this approach where you rest often and starts often. Where, when you need it, as soon as you get a little tired, take a little break and, rest it for a, frequently, and then go back and then start back in hard again. And then you continue to do that. And a lot of you will tell me, what, if I stop, I cannot start. Well, yeah, that's because your mind's weak. Your mind's weak. You don't know how to manage yourself. You don't know how to guide yourself, and your mind's being weak. You need to understand, like, it's about resting often and being able to do and going back continually on the things you want to do. Sometimes you will see I'm not, creating any videos for long periods of time, but then I come in and I create back to back really valuable videos for you guys. I don't know if you find it valuable, but I think it can definitely add perceived value. But that's the same thing I say even when I'm doing these things. I never say that you need to take on this and believe what I say is 100%. This is just my perspective. Is in my perspective, or my truths are helping you. That's all I can ask for. I cannot guarantee this will work for you. This works for me. I wouldn't give you things that wouldn't work for me. This is my perspective of what I have learned so far. So, so don't worry about too much about the outcome of your efforts or the results of your effort. Put your max effort. Take frequent breaks. Rest often, start often. When you continually starve, you will see that you will have less friction when you go take an action in the future. You will see I'll have another video on this, that this motto, rest often, start often. You will realize that you become actually truly unstoppable with this mentality. Because imagine a person that rests continuously when they get beaten down, but they come back, keep starting with maximum effort continuously without backing down. Try to understand how hard it is for you to take down a person like that, beat a person like that, and how powerful that kind of person will be. It's a very subtle thing, but it has a tremendous effect on your psyche if you can master these two um, two simple actions, which is resting often and starting often. So and that's what I wanted to say, and see, let me know if it works for you, and be strong and have a great life.